Hello everyone. I'm deeply honored to have opportunity to have a speech in this conference. My speech title is Religious Truth in the Imam Panikar's View, a ground for a convergence between religions. And I'm actually not yet a doctor, so I'm trying to do this. I will start my presentation with three premises which are mentionable. Noting some premises is worthy at the beginning. The first premise is about relation between theory and practice. Although this relation was problematic from the early moments in the history of philosophy, it is somehow obvious that theoretical attitudes have practical consequences. Though it seems useless trying to demonstrate the necessity of some consequences for some attitudes, but it seems reasonable to emphasize on the relation. Because first of all, this relation justifies the intention behind holding conferences like the one we are participating in this right now, which is mainly theoretical and does not have a direct impact on the immanent reality of religious cultures and religions. And secondly, it confirms that by considering practical issues from the beginning of our theoretical work, we stabilize the direction which we have in mind, which is convergence between religious, at least for my presentation. The second premise is about the importance of truth in religions. There are some oversimplified theories in sociology, science, and psychology which reduce the truth in religions to other aspects of human life. I don't agree with these kinds of theories, and based on the phenomenological method, I believe that if religions think they are facing truth, so they are. That's it. And the last premise is about the level of discussion raised in my presentation. Although to achieve convergence between religion, it is possible to export some moral commands or lean to some political obligations. The level of my discussion here is somehow ontological. It means that I try to justify the need for convergence between religions by focusing on the essence of religious truth. Here is where Raymond Panikar is mentionable. Raymond Panikar was a Catalan Roman Catholic priest and a proponent of interreligious dialogue. He was born as the son of a Spanish Roman Catholic mother and a Hindu Indian father in Barcelona. The amazing thing about Panikar is his own characteristic, which, as he explains, was simultaneously Hindu and Christian. He says, quote, "Christ was not half man and not half God, but fully man and fully God. In the same way, I consider myself 100% Hindu and Indian and 100% Catholic and Spanish. How is it possible? By living religion as an experience rather than as an ideology." End of quote. 2. The problem of understanding. Panikar enters the problem of religious truth by focusing on the problem of understanding. He differs between understanding and overstand, and says that to understand means to get by the spell of the thing and stand under it in admiration. He says that trying to put things under categories by the term of understanding is somehow contradictional, because at the end you are overstanding the object and transforming it by means of your perception. According to Panikar, because of the self-understanding nature of humans, trying to understand human being is rather more complicated. Quote, "Knowing man includes to know man's self-understanding and not just to know our own interpretation of an object called anthropos." So, end of the quote. So, human is a unique object for understanding. He also criticized an objective notion of truth. For him, truth isn't an objective thing out there, a thing that we can get close to it using some method. Instead, we actually participate in the process of perceiving truth, and while this process is still passive, we cannot deny human role in constructing truth. Panikar believes that there is some relation between the concept of objective truth, the idea of universal understanding, the notion of global village and colonistic mentality, monoformism of culture, and sole form of civilization. All of those who believe that reflect overstanding the object rather than understanding them. Meanwhile, he says that the problem of understanding human has two extreme sides. One is to deny the other as something wrong, evil, or enemy, and second is to think of becoming one in a global village. The latter wants to encompass the universal range of human experience and consequently dissolve the problem completely. 2. The pluralism of truth. Here is where Panikar established his own view for facing the problem. For that, he uses a common word and specifies it for his own purpose. The term is pluralism. By pluralism, he means both recognition of the differences, plurality, and considering varieties, pluriformity. The first is mainly about the quantity of differences, and the latter is about the quality of it. He affirms that his pluralism has two forerunners. One is perspectivism, which is in best shown in the parable of the blind man and the elephant, although he believes that based on the actual human situation, nobody really knows whether there is an elephant or not. 2. Relativity and not relativism, which means everything depends on a set of collisions in which the particular case that particular case statement, fact, or situation can be expressed. He defines pluralism with 6 considerations. 1. Pluralism is not plurality. Pluralism is not directed towards unity. Pluralism is not intended to universal system and believes in incommensurability of ultimate systems. Pluralism is aware of our contingent and non-transparency of reality. Pluralism is a symbol for polar and tensile coexistence between ultimate human attitude, cosmologies, and religions, and that pluralism is not against intelligibility and the function of logos, but says that there is mutos too, a horizon that makes things possible. Due to this definition, he claims that truth is a pluralistic in itself. Pluralism belongs to the human condition and relative completeness of each system. So he believes that for seeing truth as such, we need to see it from different perspectives, and this raises the need for an interfaith dialogue. Panikar argues for a non-dualistic or avantic attitude about truth and believes that Hindu terminology is more useful here, something beyond right and wrong, good and evil, friend and enemy, and etc. So truth is beyond unity or plurality because both of these categories reduce being to consciousness. We cannot judge by reason alone. Pluralism enters when we discover the mutual incommensurability of human attitude. It is the recognition of incompatibility of ultimate belief. Quote, truth is always a relation. One of the terms of the relation, explicitity or implicity, is man. Even we speak of the metaphysical truth of being or theological truth of the Godhead itself, we humans cannot be totally bracketed out. And this is all the more the case when dealing with religious truth. In other words, truth has always an element of subjectivity in the sense that we men are somehow sharing in that statement, unity, process, or state of affairs which we call truth. Truth is always a relation which makes reference to us men, for which the truth is truth, and not only objective truth. So, we are part of pluralistic truth. If truth itself does not have an exclusively objective structure, since the seeker also belongs to it, and there are different seekers. Truth is always relational. Every human being is an autonomous source of self-understanding. By having this notion about truth, perceiving truth is always inevitably from one human perspective. And the value of dialogue between various religions is precisely to help perceive that there are other perspectives and windows through which humans can see truth. Conclusions. No, not ending yet. Here. I will end it soon. There can be some conclusions based on Panikar's what Panikar say about pluralistic truth. 1. By this description, truth isn't something objective outside human that we should get near to it using methods, but we are part of the reality and somehow participating in constructing it. 2, according to Panikar's notion of religious truth, we are human beings. We as human beings are involved in the process of perceiving truth, so the other isn't against me in this process, but besides me. More precisely, we do not choose to encounter the other. Instead, he or she is always beside us, and eventually, instead of I, you or him, transcendent or immanent, the reference for truth is we. According to Panikar, each tradition is contingent system and as a coherent system has its own language. But this doesn't mean that no critique can be made. Every tradition can be criticized by other traditions. We shall speak by a common language. Intercultural and interreligious dialogue can be based on a prevalent musos, which is the horizon of thinking. Having practical intercultural experience is especially useful for fulfilling this aim. The goal is no longer universal agreement among divergent peoples, but the convergence of hearts without being able to either love the same thing or to understand the another. Thank you very much.